I was really looking forward to this panel because it's still on my bucket list. It's still one of my dreams. One day I want to give a character my voice, but I don't know who would ever choose my voice to give it to a character. So that's why I was really looking forward to it. So yeah, voice shapes how we experience games, right? It builds characters, emotion, immersion, and storytelling. And right now, with AI rapidly entering the conversation, it's also raising big questions about creativity, technology, and the future of performance. And I have three brilliant people here on stage to unpack all of this. And I want you to give them a big, warm welcome applause. Okay. Okay, we have Lynne Glaner here on stage, voice actress, media producer, and a former games journalist, bringing the performer's perspective on storytelling, localization, and what makes characters come alive. You may heard her voice in Halo or Borderlands. Yeah. Yeah. Then we have Filip Cholewczynski, senior game producer with over 15 years in games, with experience at CD Projekt Red, Jaeger, Ubisoft Berlin, Vuga, and 11-Bit Studios. He's here to share how voice, narrative, and production actually come together behind the scenes. Hello. And then also with us, Robyn Pacetti, founder and CEO of Protagonists, exploring voice-first storytelling and generative AI, and what that could mean for the future of games. Robyn is in the games industry for over 25 years and already and has worked for Amazon, Ubisoft, and Vuga too. Hi. All right, you guys. I want to start with a big question for each and every one of you. So, in your opinion, when does voice acting elevate a game? When does it go from, okay, nice to have, to unforgettable? Maybe Lynne, I will start with you.
I think it's not.
Oh, sorry.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Mic check. When I have the creative freedom to actually become the character and to contribute to the whole experience with the gamer in mind, actually. So then it's not just about delivering lines. It's actually about becoming and creating this character, adding depth and building this world, actually. Yeah.
Oh, I can see that you're really like into this.
I'm fully into this.
Filip, how about you?
I mean, for me, so for me, basically, it's.
Oh, it's off. Put it up. Put the yeah.
There we go. Yes, thank you. So for me, it's the crucial part of any game that has like strong narrative, and then you want to showcase something with the narrative in the game. So it's crucial. I mean, from my perspective, from producers' work, like you cannot deliver real awesome art that's driven by narrative without good voiceover behind it. So yeah, it's. I mean, I'm gonna geek out more about this like later on when we're gonna deep dive in. But like some of my favorite actors, and we talked about it just before the talk. Like actors of all time are actually like voice actors, you know. So it's it's really important for me as a gamer and as a producer.
Robyn, how about you? When does voice become for you unforgettable?
So I think voices are what I call human native entertainment, meaning that from the bygone areas of when we were all in caves, we were like telling each other stories. So that's the kind of primal way we humans communicated and entertained each others in the past, bringing two different things, using your imagination and voices. So this is the really most important thing, even from a baby, you know, you're hearing the voices of your parents, it's very formative. So it's the absolute essential primary medium to communicate emotions, stories, imagination. So that's extremely important.
Yeah. I want to go deeper into the fields you're all coming from. So I'm going to follow up with you, Robyn. So what role does voice play in your work today?
So it's a pitch about. No, it's because my company, Protagonist, we are a very early stage startup. We started last year, and we are building virtual worlds based on voice narration. We use AI to generate those voices. We could use also real human voices, but it's an interesting challenge from a production perspective. But overall, it is absolutely the core essential way we tell stories. So what we do is, to simplify it, we allow people to create stories that other people can enjoy, and giving them choices to explore worlds through voices. So we think about this in terms of level of production value. If you think like the core aspect is having great voices that are immersive, and then if you want to add an additional layer, you would add, sound effects, music, all the bells and whistles. And it's a bigger topic, but then this question is about cognitive load and all this, but I don't want to get too nerdy about this. But yeah, we want to help people explore worlds through narration.
How about you, Filip? How do you work with voice?
I mean, for me right now, it's been a couple of years since I worked last with like the actors and like narrative and localization part of it. But what was the most interesting part about it, like right now I'm geeking out from the gamer side of things, but the most important part was actually, like, it's going to be a little bit boring, but starting from the budgeting side of things and pre-production, and actually having this in mind very early on, and then kind of like keeping tabs on, like, we have to do this and we have to get the actors here, and we need to talk with the localization vendors to make sure that we can make it on all in time. And that's like, again, like the part of the process, and always having this in the back of my head, like 100 different things that producers have, but also for me it was this little nugget, gold nugget, that I also always like, we have to do this right. So yeah.
And for you, Lynne, I mean, you're an actress, voice actress. I can imagine you being in the studio, but is there more in your daily work that comes with voice acting? What do you actually do if you're not in the studio, or are you always in the studio?
I wish. I wish I was. For me, I grew up with storytelling.
Yeah.
And then I professionally trained as an actress, and I was doing a lot of theater work, and I was trained to tell story through my whole body. And the voice is an essential part of this, actually. And when I got into voice acting, it was like a full circle moment, and then specializing in games, especially interactive storytelling, immersive storytelling. So this is a huge part of my everyday, actually, to train my voice, to do castings, auditions for projects. But actually, right now, especially with the AI debate, to use my voice to answer questions, to make it a bit more visible. What's the craft behind it, the possibilities or the challenges? Yeah.
So I also want to hear from you, what is the difference in dubbing for video games, but also in film production? I haven't thought about it earlier. Is there any difference? Yes, you're nodding. Yes. What is the difference?
Yes, good question. It's a huge difference. Because when I'm dubbing for TV series or movies, I actually have an image. I see the scene, I see the original actors, I can synchronize with their way of acting the scene out. In video games, I usually don't see anything at all.
Oh, really?
Yeah, usually I don't know which project I'm working on until the very moment I'm in the booth.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah. So the lead time is completely different. Yeah.
And how do you prepare then for the role? It's really hard.
It's really hard, and it is especially hard for voice actors who are not gamers because they don't know the product. It's hard for them to imagine where's my voice placed in the what does the final result look like or sound like? Why do I have to record the same lines over and over again in different emotions like branching? So it's really, really hard for my colleagues who are not gaming at all. And they constantly ask me, what can I do to get better? And I always keep telling them, start playing video games. So yeah. In dubbing, we usually see the scenes, the movie, the show, the TV show in advance. So we can, we have a little bit of another lead time to prepare actually for the work.
And also, especially for German dubbing, you also see how your English American colleagues did the dubbing for an international movie, or even how the actor did the acting, right?
Yeah.
So what do players often underestimate when it comes to voice performance from a player's perspective?
That we don't get a lot of context.
Yeah.
The best sessions I've had were the ones where the developers or maybe the publishers or the marketing team, the localization team, were remotely in the session, so we could ask questions, we could make suggestions to make it German. For me personally, the best localization is one that stands on its own. That's not only a copy of the English or Japanese version. For example, I've been in Final Fantasy, and then we had people from the Japanese team joining our session and give us insight to how to display the emotions, how to act out the emotions, so we could make a good German version. And that's premium if developers are joining our sessions.
Going to developers, Filip, from a producer's perspective, when should voice actually enter the development process? And what goes wrong if it comes too late?
So, do you want like the ideal scenario or the real scenario?
Both. Give me both.
All right. So the ideal scenario is you actually start with voice acting at the pre-production stage of the game, you know? So you're figuring things out, and at the same time you're already talking to the VO vendors, you're talking with casting directors, and you're already getting like the main voices, the main characters for the game, you know? So that's the ideal scenario. And then you're going into production, so you're starting to make the features of the game, and you have like these stages that we call alpha, beta, and then, you know, release of the game. During alpha stage, you should already have like all the voices in, so that in beta you can actually see if you need pickups, additional recordings, and, you know, polish things out. And then of course you release, everything is fine. You know, you tested it with QA, all the localization vendors and all the additional voices in different languages are also done. So, you know, that's the ideal. The real world, however, looks like a little bit messier because, again, it's so much different from film and movies and like TV series, where the work is done, like the script, for example, is done, and then the actors are actually getting the script so they know what they're working with. Very often in my past, the actors got like a little bit of script or like part of the script, and then the script was rewritten a couple of times along the way, which again, like of course, like creates a lot of additional budget that you need to get into. But at the same time, like it's messy because you have like so many moving parts, and you always want to get the fun game, right? Like you want to get a really cool quest, a really cool like chains of quests, and you want to make sure that the relationships, especially like in big RPGs, right? Like Witcher, Cyberpunk, you want to have something that starts here, 10, 12 hours later in your game, like there's a reference to that, or there's like a chain that goes along. And it's great where you have a locked-in script, like with your writers, but very often it's a work in progress until the very end. And I do have a story. I cannot say like which game exactly, but I can tell you that basically in one of the games that I worked on, there was this chain of like relationship that you could have like with one of the characters. And the chain is basically that, you know, you romance this character, and at the very end you can have like a love scene. It turns out that there was no option if you didn't want to go that way, or you just started it, and there was no like ending to it. And we found out like very late on during development, like very close to release. And what we had to do is we had to take the voices of our characters that we had in the past, the actors, and cut basically their lines from different places, just to kind of have like very quick conversations of like, oh yeah, I don't want to kind of like date you or something, you know. So that's what happens kind of in reality very often, unfortunately.
I see a lot of nodding from your side, Lynne.
Yes, I'm actually working on a huge AAA RPG game. I cannot say the title, not yet, but it's coming out later this year. And we're actually, I'm in the booth since January. So I'm working, I think I delivered over, I don't know, 10,000 lines already.
Wow.
I'm going back tomorrow just to do, tomorrow I'm in the studio for half an hour just to do barks and emotes, which are basically reactions. So I can see they need those reactions, and I exactly sound the same like the English performer. I know when she does, So this is what I'm doing tomorrow, half an hour in Hamburg. So yeah, it's exactly like you described it. We have to be very flexible, very adaptive, and we're now recording day one patches.
Oh, wow. Maybe it's not on my bucket list anymore. Let's see. Okay, Robyn. So you're building a voice-first experiences. Why do voices create such a strong emotional connection, sometimes also even without visuals?
I mean, that's what I mentioned a bit earlier about the native, you know, human entertainment, is when you hear a message, you imagine, right? It sparks basically imagination. So someone is talking to you, the way people vocalize information, right, gives this sense of emotions. It passes feelings, pretty much, and this is, you know, why people connect to it, right? What does it mean so much? That's our primary mode of communication, and I think when you talk about, you know, voice acting, voiceover, right, this is really about tapping into that kind of primal feeling of sensing something, right? And then so that's what matters, I think, in an entertainment. Right now, there's a lot of discussions about what does it mean to be a voice actor, and I think it's a very interesting topic because usually people talk about voice actors in the gaming industry. This is just a voice, but there's actually the actor part is completely missing. And I think what is quite interesting now is that you wonder, okay, so who has the acting right in this? You know, how do I direct an actor to do something? Is it the author? So let's say you're making, I don't know, the Lord of the Rings, taking a big IP that people know, right? So is the original author needs to know how this character needs to sound? Or is it the game director that should have this kind of directions? Or is it the actor, you know, themselves? So that's an interesting question, because AI start to ask the questions about who decides, right? So for mentioning, so we do use voice AI, right? So for reasons that are pretty clear in production, right? So we are like an unfunded tiny studio. We can't afford to have this delay or just like, oh, I'm changing at 2 a.m. basically, you know, some elements. I cannot just ring it. Please re-record the elements, right? So because now I can update the voice and I can patch it and update it so the players can directly hear the changes, right? So that's a very different world. And now it means that if you want to articulate this emotion, you have a sense of what level quality of acting, writing, right? So all these comes elements. AI basically is a very big bucket, right? What does it mean? So now the question is more, do we give bigger studios the opportunity to give those emotions when they're like doing this, and they can do it extremely well? Like this is like the premium, deluxe, the best voice actors, you know, the best professionals. As a small studio, I can't afford that, right? That's not even possible. And even if I could afford it, I could afford maybe one recording, right? But if I do like 100 hours of, you know, and every time I add a character, it doubles into like, oh, now it needs to be in all the languages and doing all this, right? So there's like multiplication of cost and production overhead, and it's very challenging. So now you have to have this kind of fundamental discussion about how you decompose the actual skill of voice acting between acting, emotions, character, everything that it brings to the table. This expertise is very valuable. Even with AI, you know, that's another discussion about the evolution of skills and needs in the industry. I think we still need voice actors, but maybe the job is a bit different now. And the other part is, do we empower many creatives, right, to create their own stories with voice? I would never be able to afford to tell my own small story, but now I can take my voice and doing all this. Or I'm actually this morning I talked to an author, right, and they're writing books and adventures and doing all this. They're excited and they want to record everything by hand for the first demo, right? So because they have a community, they care about this, right? Great. So now I need to wait 2 months before this is done, and they're talking to the community, say, should I do it in voiceover, right? That's an interesting question. So it's about themselves, right? They don't have any cast, it's just themselves. But just having them, having the time availability to record basically a full novel, it's a huge amount of time. And the question is, can they afford it, right? So a lot of interesting topics on its own about this.
Definitely, definitely. We cannot ignore AI now in voice acting, and I want to dig deeper into that, Robyn. So where do you see AI opening doors, not only now, but also in the future when it comes to voice performance, and what excites you most about that?
So I think there's one thing is making this more accessible. It means it's like you're giving a camera to everyone out there. They can take their own pictures, they can their own videos. So now everyone is an artist. Then the question is, there's less gatekeeping because you don't need to pay all this. So you empower people to create on their own. So now you can, what good looks like, right? The question of what is good voice acting and where it goes. And that's true, like voice actors can outperform AI in many areas today. It's catching up, but there's a different type of levels of fidelity or quality, if you can imagine. So even when you were making early stage, AAA games, you have draft voices, right? You just record like just to get a feel of how long it will take and all these elements. And then you have different levels of polishing that goes back. Now you can do this all over with AI directly, pretty fast and good, and people don't care because it's just going to be throwaway material anyway. So this is displacement of like people that were doing those jobs, right? So that's an issue that we have to take into account. But now the question is, having everyone that want to create voice-based content, you know, how can it create opportunities for this craft to really shine? And if you ask me, for example, we try to make those voices emotional, and AI is not an easy tool to use. If you just type like, you know, give this, it's gonna be bad. Because then you start to see, okay, how do I instruct the AI to be more emotional, give all these intonations, pause, and doing all this, right? And you have to really understand the acting, you know, mindset to, oh, I need a pause here, I need intonation, right? So this kind of sensibility of the acting skill set is very important. You know, exactly what you were describing about is, so there's like the performance aspect of physically moving and giving it away, but so now how could you translate that in giving instructions to an AI to learn how to do this? And that means that voice experts, voice actors that have a passion for the craft have a huge role to play in this. And then if more and more people use voices, it's like, if you go on some AI things like create a voice, well, that voice will not be that exciting. What makes those voices so unique, you know, of those famous actors is they have very specific textures. It's kind of signature, right? And so people should be, of course, rewarded if those voices are used, right? We don't want the AI to copy and like it want to do that. That's, you know, a given. You know, this is something very personal and doing this. But it also it requires some people that understand what makes a voice interesting. Is this what kind of message, emotion that specific voice carries to the audience? And that's also a very cultural thing, right? So we were talking a bit earlier, but emotions carry differently in French, German, English, right? And the prosody, that's the word, like how the word, you know, flows, started to be interesting. So, but most people don't understand this. It's kind of science of voice pretty much, and storytelling. So you're moving to a question that is quite for me fascinating is if I'm alone at home and I say, okay, I want to tell my story about a hobbit in a hole, or this. Great. So I'm going to type that text, I'm going to generate the voice, and then shit, it sucks. So I need to understand why it sucks. And then you have to okay, maybe a comma here or more information. How do I train this? Is it more about the stability of the voice, right? So you have to go really scientifically understanding all of this about what makes that voice really raise, being emotional, and how much you're stretching. So there's a mix between tech, understanding of the crafts of communication, the writing aspect, right? And so on the positive side means that if I'm an author, I don't have the money and I just want to do this, but I'm just very passionate, I don't need to ask permission. I can, for almost no money, create now interesting stories if you have the passion and the craft to doing all this. But if you're like a professional company, you still need someone that understands all of this, because suddenly it's not like I'm telling a story with one narrator because it's convenient and cheap. Like, why can I tell basically, no, I'm kind of small, thing like this. If you want to a virtual world and you have hundreds of characters, how you do this, right? They need to do voice casting for every character to make them sound interesting. The AI doesn't know what makes this character interesting and doing all this. So it's about the acting part. So you have a skill of casting. What type of voice, texture, emotions would make sense to this specific character? Who is the character doing all this? And then you have to do this for different languages and doing all this. So what it means is, and I touch AI on many different topics, but AI is a very small word for so many different things. Yeah. So.
Definitely. Lynne, as a voice actor, I think AI is impossible to ignore right now. So what conversations do performers have behind the scenes?
A lot of conversations. And we're in Berlin right now. I'm basically working in Berlin, Hamburg, and Cologne. These are my main cities for dubbing work and video games. In Berlin, we're currently striking Netflix due to contracts. I think the conversation is not if AI is coming, it is how it is implemented.
Yeah.
And it's a very interesting conversation going on right now. I haven't worked for Netflix since November last year. Then I did a TV show, which I had a recurring or basically a main part in. I did several episodes, and it was only one season. So that was it. I had the old contract, which didn't allow my voice to be used as unpaid training data for Netflix AI system. After that, only a couple of weeks later, Netflix presented a new contract without notice. It was just there, and it included that the performer gave consent to use the voice recordings to train their internal AI systems. And that's when the strike started, and it reminds us a little bit, for example, for the SAG-AFTRA strike, the video game strike, which went for 1.5 years in the US, and that also affected us, video game performers in Germany and Europe, because 1.5 years, there was basically no recording done in the US. When we don't have material to localize, we don't have work. So it's very, very difficult right now. And I think we have to keep the conversation going. At least that's a conversation I would like to have, where technology is going, because it's all about consent and transparency. How is the data used? And of course, pay. Pay is a topic. I've studied years training my craft, and now it's merely treated as unpaid training data for internal AI systems. And it's not only Netflix, it's also EA, and I can say that. Electronic Arts has the same clause, is operating just like Netflix, presenting this, and if I'm not willing to sign this contract right now, I'm not cast. I cannot audition for anything. I'm excluded from any work. Yeah.
So, what would an ethical use of AI in voice acting actually look like to you? What would be a path?
I'm a huge technology nerd, and I do see possibilities for example, for interactive storytelling. I could imagine if there was sort of a licensing for my voice that I have control over and I can give consent to, I could imagine to make my voice synthetic and use in video games, for example, if there are cutscenes, like key moments that were recorded in performance capturing. We're talking about voice acting, but in the US or in other countries, it's actually the performance capturing. It's not only someone standing in the studio, there are actors really acting everything out, and the voice is recorded at the same time. So I could imagine this, that there are like key moments in the game, like cutscenes, that are acted out like we've done it before, but that there are interactive elements where the synthetic voice comes into play. And that's why I'm so excited to be here and to talk to developers and producers about this, because I would like to understand how technology is going, how it is actually serving the product and even serving the player's needs or what they want, because in the end, I think the customer decides.
I think there is a lot of ways that the voice actors could benefit from what's happening. I think it might require, to be honest, regulation to put this in motion or to kind of force the companies to not have abusive practices. I think we have to dissociate the technology from the behaviors of some actors in the industry, like actors, like companies or entities that have abused a bit their, let's say, position of power in this relationship. But if you think about AI changing the accessibility of voice, right? Because everyone can now have a voice and tell the story through voice, through AI. But it means more people may want to use and share voices and have a more interesting, and there's a request for diversity, more different voices, because if suddenly millions or tens of millions of people want to create their own stories with 50 different voices, they don't want all to use the voice of, famous actor X, right? So that's an opportunity. Then the question is, how do you license basically those voices? And it's already possible if you go, I don't want to make ads, but there's some AI company out there that does voiceover generation. They have contracts with famous actors, right? They or even passed away actors doing all this, right? You cannot just generate them randomly like this. You have to sign a contract. It's like a bit more intense, but they should be accessible for any kind of voices, right? And I think here we should divide two different elements: is what has been used to train the AI, and I think from my personal opinion, these companies should maybe pay something or distribute it to what has been their training material. So I don't know how exactly. We have to look into technically, but technologically it's possible to understand where does this come from. And the training aspect is one element. This is improving the technology. Then the question is the individual actors that have a special voice signature or like something like their kind of, fingerprint or voice print basically. This is extremely valuable because that's the identity. And here I would say it's more like tiers of services. You want to use the kind of draft voice of actor X, why not, right? You pay a license for that, and because it's not going to be released publicly, then it's maybe cheaper. And then if you want to use it for AAA production, well, suddenly, actually, I want the actor to be here. Maybe there's some quick thing I can use the technology version, the AI generated version at it. But then if there's a scene where it's very emotional, it's full mocap, and it's very important, let's bring the actor there and act. And I think that's basically like a way for actors to make money in different ways. Because at 3 a.m. when I'm writing my quest and doing all this, I cannot just call A.
Yeah. Filip, studios are under pressure. You have deadlines, budgets, scale. What's your take on the ethical use of AI and how can it be part of the pipeline where everyone is feeling comfortable with it?
I mean, I feel it's going to be a long time, until everyone's comfortable with it. But for me, AI, AI isn't sentient, at least not yet. You know, we're not Skynet yet level of it. But at the same time, since it's not sentient, it doesn't have its own thinking. It's a tool, so we're using it as a tool. And the person who's using the tool, like, they're either bad or good, you know, in the way that they use it. So they can do it for good. And for example, when it comes to production, like, these are things that you can, especially during like the concepting and pre-production phase, I would say this is the most awesome tool that can, showcase you basically how the game can feel like and can look like in production, right? Because before you had to have a lot of artists working for a long time doing concept art. You had to have like people from the studio, so like employees actually doing some voiceovers just to kind of get the feeling of what it might be, you know, later on before we get, you know, Jennifer Hale or Troy Baker. And now, like, you can use these tools to kind of like get the vision to the team earlier on, so that they know, like, okay, so this is what we're aiming for, this is what we're going for, and then during production it can fasten things up because everybody's more aligned on the vision. And I would say, like, that's something that can really help and make things faster, because again, like, game production is a very messy process. Like, you need to constantly change things, make sure that like everything is moving at all times, like animation, engineering, and like all the different disciplines. So if you can fasten up that process, that's great. Like for me, when it comes to ethical kind of thing, like I feel the human soul is the biggest part for me when it comes to the voiceover. I mean, like, human soul, not getting into like religious topics, but basically it's like the performance, and it's the years that the actors actually gave in theater, in studies, to actually like learn what they're doing. And you cannot really replicate that, like, at least not right now yet. And you can feed the machine, but the machine will always be the machine in the end. So you won't have like AI Keanu Reeves going on stage and like, hey, new Cyberpunk, right? And everybody's like, AI Keanu Reeves. So like, I think this is the part that's never gonna be replaced in that way. Like, you will never be able to say, like, for example, Matthew McConaughey and I believe Michael Caine, for example, signed up, I believe it was 11 Labs, like that they lend their like voices. So for example, like after they're gone, they can use their voices. But you won't have another Michael Caine going on stage and, you know, like presenting something, right? And being there. So I think this is the part that I feel like will never go away, and that the actors actually, you know, have the power over with, like, that their presence is needed. It's needed for motion capture, like it's needed for the emotions, and especially, I mean, like, motion capture is the biggest thing when you have like 2 or 3 actors playing together a role. Like, AI won't be able to replicate their emotions that they have like when they're playing off each other. So that's basically that. And again, at least right now we're at this level where like the AI models are trained, but is it really going to be what the gamers want in the end? And I feel not really. Like, me as a gamer, for example, I wouldn't like be able to accept, like, I'm seeing a game on Steam and there's a little note like, hey, by the way, like, all the voiceovers are made by AI, and it's, I don't know, The Last of Us 10, right, or something. So probably not gonna get there, but but at the same time, like, this is not what the players want, and I think Our Creators was the perfect example. They used AI-generated voices for their NPC characters, and there was such a huge backlash, and it's an amazing game, that they actually, like, they retracted it and said, like, okay, like, we're gonna get the actors, and they actually got the real actors in the game, and they patched it and said, like, hey, we're sorry, like, we shouldn't have done that.
Yeah, but couldn't that be a fair compromise somehow, that we say maybe in the future, okay, minor NPC voices will be AI, but major performances stay human? Couldn't that be a compromise? Yeah.
I mean, it could, definitely. Like, in the end, it's really hard for me to say, because it's going to be like up to the public, up to the gamers to
yeah,
actually
sure.
say like if they're okay with it. But like this could be an option. I see this like personally, I see this more as kind of like a Fortnite or Roblox thing where players can create their own worlds within those games, and they have like very robust editors. And now if they have AI on top of it, like, hey, maybe they can actually add voices to their own creations, and this could be like the next evolution of like game developers who are actually using the tools, you know, like they're gamers and they're creating like modding stuff, and now they're getting into the craft by using these tools, and that can, you know, land them also a role in the gaming industry as professionals. So like that way with user generated content where they could use it like AI for their stuff, so that players also, other players can play it. Like I can see it definitely in that sense. Yeah.
We're running out of time, and I still want to give you some time to ask questions. That's why I would love to dig deeper, but we already talked like over 40 minutes. So is there anybody having a question? Yeah. Oh, Pierre Jérôme, the button. All right.
Thank you. I think it's kind of a hard question to ask for me, but my head got stuck on the point with we're using AI, it's just throwaway material, because as I remember, your pitch was voice first, right?
Oh, okay. So I was talking about two different things at one point. I was talking about how game studios today, when they generate content, they don't go for the final quality voice from the get-go. They have draft voices. Those draft voices were done by, you know, voice actors, you know, in the past, and already a while ago, when voice generation was not that good, they were moving this as a way to kind of placeholder the voices. Regarding what we do, when we say we are voice versus, is because we are going through storytelling, right? So this is how the voices, like the game is about listening to a story, like in the same way you are a game master at around the table when you're playing a tabletop role-playing game. Is there like a specific question you would like to ask?
I mean, for that situation, the voice still matters a lot, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, your point was the translation of what is actually being said by the voice, but then the player receiving is the end point that we want to reach. And then what I don't understand is settling for like the lower quality that AI brings just to get the product out and test, because then we are having a lot of angry people.
I think I think they will actually answer a few points that were raised here. At the end of the day, what matters is not so much the craft itself, is are the end user happy with the quality of the game, of the experience, whatever it is. So without talking, first I'll talk about what we do afterward, but from, you have to think about who as entertainer we are serving. So what we need to make sure is that the people are happy with the product that they have, that they're enjoying it. So if the quality is lesser, right, then we will fail, right? And I think the question we have to, I would say, like, if we want to have an honest question about the AI, is will people be able to really make a difference or care enough to prefer a fully 100% organic human-made voice? And here it's not about what I care what about, right? But I've seen this in other industries as well. You know, I mean, I'm French, I love food, but people go to the worst food place and eat most of the food that is full of GMO and other, you know, less healthy stuff. They know about it. It is written on it that there is, you know, non-healthy stuff. They still like it or consume it enough for. And there's a price component as well, it's a bigger topic, but overall, it's really about do people enjoy it? So from there's a quality perspective, then there's a cost perspective in terms of, and cost is encompassed basically all the delays that might be incurring with human actors and the price per hour recorded and everything like this, right? So it's a very big topic. So is how do you get basically a great experience to the end gamer, the end user, and how do you make sure that they enjoy it, and how do you make it at a cost that makes it, profitable to keep going? And I think if you think about the kind of industrialization of voice generation, if you pragmatically say this, is what do we really care about from a craft perspective, a product perspective, and AI is changing so many things in many industries, so it's not just about voiceovers per se, right? So it's a bit of broader discussion, but making it a bit longer here. But at the end of the day, what on our side, from what I see, if you really spend a lot of time and energy, it's not just like, I'm typing a prompt in 5 seconds and then it's magnificent. The voices are really good. We got really good feedback from our testers on the voices. And when the voice is not that good, people will say, well, that is shit. Basically, it pulls me out of the immersion. So the bar is high, right? But are we able to believe that the AI will not be able to copy exactly, or just make it sound good enough? No, that's an interesting question. I'm not a super expert. I would say that when I see what is possible to do, and I see the reaction of not people from the craft, but from other public, users, they like it, right? They are maybe less critical or doing all this. They care about the story. They care about what they can do. And it's about the quality of the art in the video game. Sometimes the art is not that amazing. The animations are janky. Are people still enjoying the game? What makes that game interesting? So it's not that as simple as just the voice per se. So I don't know if that really answers your question. It's a big topic. And I think we can look into what it is today, but if we take 5 years from now, will there be really a difference between a high quality human voice or an AI voice? I don't know. I cannot read the future, but if you look at the quality of what is possible now, there's a chance we get there.
Anyone else? Yeah, behind you.
Hi, thank you. I also have another AI-related question because it kind of sounded I hear your passion and everything, but it also kind of sounded like a compromise. What are the things that make you go oh, it's got really good art, acting, whatever, in any films or games, whatever? I mean, ideally games where they use generative AI.
You're asking me. In which existing piece of media?
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, I was raised with cartoons that are dubbed, so emotional voices. That's something that really, from my childhood, is really important. So, any kind of cartoons from the Japanese adaptation from Dragon Ball, and Ken the Survivor.
Yeah, but I think it would be really helpful to know if you've if you've consumed anything that where they used generative AI to create something, and then that was I don't know, you were actually crazy about that thing. And I think that's because I do actually have an example. I went to a concert where they had the VJ, where it was 3 years ago, and they had kind of slideshow or image sequence of a lot of generated AI. Generated images that were very cursed and everything, and I was it was the time when AI generated images are more cursed in general, but it really it fit the music and the concept and everything. So I was I'm not a big fan of I'm sorry, but I'm not a big fan of generative AI in general. But I was oh, this is actually this makes sense. This is actually great, and I was wondering if you've had that sort of experience.
Okay, so
things.
All right, my personal experience is why did I decide to do in that direction, right? So I'll just tell my journey into why did I create this protagonist, our company. I was listening to a lot of audiobooks, for hours, and going outside, and I love the voices I hear. I get immersed in universes, and I thought, how can I make this a game? And then you start to think about, is it possible to make a good game with this, right? So from being a forever GM, I like the idea of storytelling with voice. I understand how this, and I understand from a gameplay mechanic, it's possible to take lessons from board games and all this to simplify it to a way that would be interesting. Now the question is the quality achievable to make it interesting for players to enjoy that? So I started to listen to a lot of audio, experiences, some AI generated, some not, and the quality was very varying, right? But if I want to be honest, if I look into maybe older voice, older voice actors that voices audiobooks from maybe the earlier, like in the 2000s, whatever, the quality of the voiceover I'm able to get with an AI is superior to the recordings of that time. Now, if you take like a voice actor from today, they're doing way better job, more acting. There's a more quality aspect on sound treatment. So the question for me was, would the quality I'm able to achieve in making an interactive audio experience be good enough to make the game worth playing? And for me, right, not just for, this is a very passionate project for me. I really care about this. It's like not just because it's not a business project, to be honest, it's more a passion project because I want to allow people to explore virtual worlds and to remove the fact that I need to hire 15 people just to do 3D art, right? So it's like how to make it cheap for people to explore the vision I have for a virtual world. Like that's my personal, I've built universes as a GM and as a writer and doing all this, so I wanted people to do that. It just make it more accessible for people. So that's the accessibility aspect that is interesting as well, is that anyone can create using AI experiences they couldn't be doing otherwise. And it makes it easier for people to like them, I guess. There are more, it's a bit easier for people, more accessible overall.
Okay, so like it's more like almost like a speculative, like there will be something in the future, but currently you don't really have anything that, like as an example that you can recommend.
Sorry, I don't understand.
Like, my question was like, do you have you seen anything, whether it's like games or film, like whatever, where, you talked about like listening to some audiobooks that were like sometimes generated by AI.
Okay, so I understand the question. All right.
But
so I'm going to be very specific then. Sorry, I didn't really understand the nature.
Sorry.
No worries. It's me. So this is my take on the AI slop we see online today. This is most of the time people that generate things very quickly and either are still experimenting and trying to understand how this works. And if you look into professionals in video game studios and doing this, they're doing way deeper understanding of how to use this tool. So right now it's a bit like we gave Photoshop to everyone and everyone is trying to do something and it looks ugly. But if you really look into companies that are really trying to understand how to create a proper AI pipeline and quality, you can get to a quality that is higher than what you see today online spread, in 5 minutes generating prompts, doing all this. As an example, we have a pipeline to create, some elements. We have like 60 skills that the AI use to understand every pieces of the elements. It's not about, I have a chatbot and I try like, please create this. It's actually about understanding very precisely all the nature of the writing, the composition, the emotional tags, all of this, right? So it's quite technical, and most people that generate slop online, they don't do this.
But it's like you were still not.
Maybe I can jump in. So the question was a specific example for a really good AI-made piece of content.
So no, I've not found someone that has done something really good with voice AI online.
Okay.
But I can tell you that when we test it, we see we are able to do better than what I found online. Maybe some great stuff, happy to look at it, but...
Okay, so you can probably recommend like your work, more like, I guess.
I've been trying to avoid to say that. First, we're not really publicly, released. But yes, there are some companies, maybe I should disclose it. So we are actually, we have a grant from 11 Labs, right? So it's an AI, the company generates, voice. The ones that assign those like famous actors. They have different tools, professional tools that you can use to do better quality AI work. And if I've not seen many high quality work in the wild, but I know it exists. And if you want to have a good test of that, a lot of companies, not us at all, like that do customer support, more and more use basically AI voice agent.
Yeah, but I'm not interested in the
Yeah,
tools.
so yeah,
I was
so
also
but the
interested
thing
in your
is-
personal take. But yeah, thank you.
One last question. Yeah. I'm looking to you.
My question is also about the AI theme. It's gaming and voices are art, right? This is all I heard and all I know for myself, and I don't really understand all the things you said about voices and how powerful they are like not important enough to use the voice actors and to use the time and the energy and the money you have to spend for someone who uses their voice. I don't really understand why use AI. I don't understand when the voice is so powerful and can like create so beautiful things and also is a tool of art. Why then make it like cheap and fast? I don't know for who.
Okay, so first, I'm just going to be very clear. I'm not an investor in any AI company, and I'm not here to defend AI basically overall, right? I live in the same society of all of you, and I see the challenges AI brings. Now, I'm a professional for 25 years in the video game industry, and I think what I care about the most, because I come from community management originally, is making the players happy and entertaining them with great experience. So there is basically the goal is to create a great game, right, which is shared with most developers. We want to have a game that people can enjoy. Now the question is, what tools do we have to do this? And the question you're asking, there's a multiple layers into that, is there's the quality aspect. Can it be good or bad, right? So here, this is just, can it be good? I believe so, because I've made tests and technologies. I believe it can really push to a level where people can enjoy it. Two is, why do we use AI instead of real voice actors? And to be honest, money, right? This is a bootstrap startup. We want to allow people to explore, imaginary world with voices. Great. So we believe this will be enjoyable. It's a way to people to tell stories and to allow other people to create stories, because it's not that we are creating our own stories, we're creating tools for other people to create their own stories as well. The issue here is just, it's completely unaffordable for us to even work with, a voice actor on a day-to-day basis. And that vision couldn't come to friction if we were just using paid voice actors. Just in the way we work, so we would just be dead and over, immediately from a cost perspective, which is just not, it's completely out of the range of what we can afford. So here, and this is about the situation we're in, right? If we live in a world where there's no AI doing all this, right, we all compete in the world of entertainment with the same tools. But the question we have to think about now is, do we allow only companies that can afford to pay voice actors per hourly rate and doing all this, right? And if that's the rule and everyone has it, fine. We all play in the same, category, and we can all try to do our best. But if we want to help the smaller creators to have their own voice, and try to share their own stories and own experiences and doing all this, then the AI is a way also to make it easier for those smaller studios to get at the same level of quality, not the same level, but it's at the average level of quality that the end user can appreciate. Because if you do not give that aspect, the cost is so high that the quality of a small studio will be so far behind that they will just not even use that tool or work with voice actors anyway. So I'm not saying this is fair or this is the world that we want. It's just that right now, objectively, the question is, what's the cost per hour for a voice actor? And it's not about, I want one hour of content, an hour voice actor. It doesn't work this way because you have retakes and doing all this. It's quite
I can tell you how much a voice actor costs per hour. I mean, my rate is 150 euros per hour, and I'm a very fast performer, above average, and I can deliver up to 120 lines per hour. So do the math. There are voice actors who definitely have higher rates, and there are beginners who have lower rates, but all in all, also with our unions, the basic rate in Germany for just the voice actor, not the studio, not the crew, not the director, everything behind the scenes, just the voice actor is between 100 and 200 euros per hour.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's very good to give a sense of perspective of how much does it cost to create good content. Is it working?
Yeah.
All right. So, and again, you know, I'm not here to defend the state of the market because this is touching so many different areas. But I like to give an example as well, like cartoons, right? We all love the cartoons, basically, of our past, and it's like 24 frames per second. You had one artist in the US doing one frame, and then they were basically in India, Philippines, and all of this, like a lot of small hands doing the 24 other cartoons images. That was a huge industry, you know, since the 40s, you know. But suddenly when it became digital, all these jobs disappeared, right?
Yeah.
And so now the question is, and this is the same question for many different areas in entertainment, from every visual art, you know, how do we make sure that people can still have a good living and, you know, be successful? Because if you say you shouldn't do that, yeah, all right. So then say all companies shouldn't be using that, and there's bigger implications, of course. But for a small studio perspective, there's just no choice. That's the only way. And what I'm a bit concerned, if I talk personally, is I see people have a huge resistance for AI for different reasons, and they might be very valid. But how do we make sure that you know and train people to know how to use it? Because as a studio, I want to work with voice actors that have basically a casting, you know, like an acting experience. But if you're saying, I don't want to deal with AI at all, it just, okay, so I can't hire you because you don't want to use with tools that are necessary for us to just have a chance on this market to produce at a reasonable cost. Or like, so like, I think we need to work together, all the different parts of the industry, to make this work. And where I agree is that we need models that makes people paid for their contribution in terms of their voices, their expertise, doing all this, right? I'm very much into creating framework that reward people for their craft.
I see that, yeah, we could continue this conversation like for hours and hours, and I think that's the importance of it, to keep the conversation going. And you already said it, Lynne, right? So let's do that. Let's do that for the future. I have so many questions on my list, but we're already over time. So thank you so much for joining this conversation. Thank you. Yeah, applause.
Thanks for having us. So.